You're live.
Good evening. I'll now call to order the February 24th, 2026 Planning and Zoning Commission. It's 6 o'clock and I am Chair Kent Thurston. First on the agenda, is there any conflict of interest? All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to public participation. If someone has anything to say that's not really on the agenda here today, go ahead and come on up and we'll allow you to have some time to speak since it's just public participation. Also, if you, we do have one item on here on the consent agenda. So if anybody on the would like to hear that from the audience, you can kind of come up and also say something on that one. So we're going to go in. Does any participation from the public tonight? Go ahead, come on up to the mic. And I don't have to swear him in on this one, right? Because it's just public participation. Go ahead. State your name and we'll give you 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Terrence Beverly. I'm here because of the proposal to change zoning for a cannabis operation on the corner of Three Crosses and Alameda, I believe. Is that
Okay,
tonight?
that one will be on the agenda tonight, so we're going to get to that one later.
So I can speak at that time?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Is there anybody else, public participation? Okay. All right, so we need the acceptance of the agenda. This includes the minutes and the items on the consent. If any item on the consent needs to be removed for discussion, now would be the time to do so. Do anybody have any?
I'll make a motion to approve and accept tonight's agenda.
Mr. Chair, I'll second that motion.
Commissioner Acosta?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Acosta?
Yes.
Commissioner McCaslin?
Yes.
Commissioner Murray is absent. Commissioner Kaiser?
Yes.
And Chair.
Yes.
Your agenda has been accepted and consent agenda item approved.
All right, so moving on to new business. First, we have item 7.1. Can I have a motion to approve 7.1?
A motion to approve item 7.1.
Second.
All right, now we'll turn it over to staff for the presentation.
Thank you, Chair. Adam Ochoa, Community Development for the record. Before you, we have a proposed special use permit for a cannabis dispensary located at 2110 North Alameda Boulevard. If that address sounds familiar, a cannabis dispensary was permitted, a special use permit was approved for a cannabis dispensary there about 2 years ago in 2024. Current conditions are located on the southeast corner of Alameda Boulevard and Three Crosses Avenue. Property encompasses roughly about 1/4 of an acre in size and is currently a developed commercial property, but that is currently kind of being redeveloped out of its vacant phase. This proposal is following the 2001 zoning code. This application was submitted right barely before the end of the year where they could try to get this special use permit because technically under the current new development code, that use is no longer allowed on the property, which is why they pushed this to get it in under the grace period for the old code. So under that, the property under the 2001 zoning code is zone C2. Especially SUP application submitted during the grace period, they're allowed to come here, which is again why we're reviewing it now. So showing the zoning map here, this is again under the 2000 zoning code, the property here is zone C2, surrounded by C2, the east, north, and west, and multifamily zoning as well. Of course, though south past the lateral here, which is Las Cruces lateral, that is where we have single family. Again, showing the property here, we all might know it as the Eagle Mart and Laundromat, which was one of the previous businesses that were on that property. So this is a proposed new cannabis dispensary under 2001 zoning code. It requires a cannabis related to business to obtain basically a special use permit when located within 300 feet of a single-family zoning district. This property is roughly, well, approximately 155 feet from an R1A single-family medium density zoning district to the south, which I just showed on the map. This will allow the proposal will follow all City of Las Cruces standards and requirements, as well as all state and New Mexico regulations governing cannabis-related retail activities. When staff did the analysis, we really saw no life safety welfare issues identified by this proposal. The business will function like any other business within the city. Like if it was a bar, if it was a convenience store, it basically would service the same, if you will. Meets buffer distance requirements from the school, daycare, and other cannabis-related establishments. The Elevate Las Cruces Comprehensive Plan has numerous goals and policies and actions that support the proposed SUP, which includes encouraging the redevelopment or reuse of properties or commercial properties that are vacant in the core of the city. Proposed site appears to meet all standards and requirements of code. Staff will assure that before a business license is issued for the proposed cannabis dispensary. Approval of the SUP will allow the continued use of a developed commercial property, like I said before, in the core of the city. This public notice was sent out following all standards and requirements of our zoning code. All surrounding properties received notice. It says here staff received no comments, but literally about an hour ago, we received about 3 phone calls. One, just asking questions about it, general questions about the dispensary, and 2, who were basically churchgoers, church people who go to a couple of churches that are close by there that were against the proposed cannabis dispensary. But that was essentially it. So with that tonight, staff does recommend approval for the proposed special use permit based on the following findings. Subject property does meet the distance separations required from a school or daycare and other cannabis-related establishments. In terms of the proposed use, this business will function again like any other business within the city. And the proposed SUP meets the purpose and intent requirements of Section 38-2 of the 2001 zoning code as amended. Well, no longer amended, but just 2001 zoning code, no longer in effect. Additionally, all applicable requirements as outlined in 2001 zoning code and those stipulated by the state of New Mexico must be adhered to in subsequent operation of the proposed business. The SP meets the purpose and intent of Elevate Las Cruces through the promotion of higher development intensities and incorporation of small commercial uses along major thoroughfares, which Alameda is considered a collector roadway as well as 3 Crosses Avenue as well. With that tonight, Commission, your option is 1 to vote yes and approve the proposed special use permit as recommended by staff. 2 to vote no, deny the proposed special use permit. Just remember, a denial requires new information or facts not identified or presented during staff review, since we are recommending approval. 3 to vote to amend, adding conditions deemed appropriate by the commission tonight, or 4 to table, postpone, and direct staff accordingly. That is the conclusion of my presentation. The applicant's representative is here if you have any questions for them, but I request staff for questions.
Does the applicant wish to have a presentation?
Not at this time, sir.
All right. Is there, we're going to move on to public participation then, and I'm going to go here on the left, and I believe I have to swear him in on this. Is that right? All right. So come on up. Do you have, is there do I have to swear him in? Yeah. That's what I've always. All right, can I get your name?
Yes, my name is Terrence Joel Beverly.
All right. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Go ahead.
Okay, good evening again. I'm a longtime member of this community. My first house was on this property we're at today. My second house is maybe 3 blocks away on the corner of San Pedro and Mountain. I went to Alameda, to Lucero Elementary, where the library's at now. I went to Washington Elementary, went to Alameda Junior High, went to Court Junior High, and I graduated from Mayfield High School. After graduating, I went to the military, and I went to school in Phoenix, Arizona. When I came back, This has been and will always be my home. This cannabis shop is in the Lucky, used to be formerly Lucky Eagle Mart on that corner. You walk in the doors, and there's a big glass counter, and they have 50 or 60 glass bongs and pipes right there, right next to the candy section practically, where the kids go and buy their fountain drinks, their candy. Everything's right there out in the open. These are little children that can go in there and buy ice cream cones. I got a problem with that, you know? I used marijuana growing up. I don't recommend it to nobody. It's an excuse. There's hundreds of kids that live in that area. There is a school bus that parks on the property of one of the churches there, which is a minute walk across the street too. There's a school bus stop there with elementary kids going in and out of there, morning and evening. Besides my religious opposition to this, there's also a health factor involved. If you're promoting smoking of any kind, it's gonna be wrong. That's about all I got to say. I just hope it doesn't pass, because that community, that neighborhood is in desperate need of help anyways. It's a really poor. I've replaced at least 7 or 8 windows in the past year at my church from people breaking in. We've had break-ins at that church all the time. Meanwhile, the church is out there doing food bank, and we have our doors open anytime during the week. You can go by there, and if you're hungry, we'll send you home with a box of food. Thanks a lot for your guys' time. Have a blessed week.
Thank you. All right, we're going to keep going on the left. Is there anyone on the left? Go ahead, come on up. And can you please state your name, and then I'll swear you in.
Sure, my name is Margaret Wetzel.
All right, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Thank you. Go ahead. I'll give you 3 minutes.
I am the property manager for the Texaco Conference, and we own one of the church properties there on Three Crosses. I have a statement tonight from one of our members that was unable to attend, and he would like me to read it for you. This issue tonight is personal to me. My family roots are in this neighborhood. We originally sold the store property. Before it was a berry field, among other things, but children are more important than profits. Adding more things to trip kids up is the inexcusable. Legal or not, cannabis products are harmful, and especially for kids. There are more than enough outlets for THC. Please do not add this one to the list. And this is from Lloyd Lindbeck. And I also have, some of the same concerns. We have children that go in and out of this facility, and we already have issues with break-ins in the property, and I just feel like this adds to the issue. There's been several times where there's been homeless people that have to be, asked to leave. It's just not a good situation in that neighborhood. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Stand on the left. Anybody else? Come on up. And once again, once you get up there, if you'll state your name, I'll swear you in.
My name is David Tofstead, and
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Thank you.
I am the lady and the gentleman who spoke. We were with, I guess, the Seventh-day Adventist Church. I go to the church on the other side of the road, the Mountain View Christian Church. So we know that, THC has problems. We're finding out more and more about what those problems are. So there's reports of paranoia and schizophrenia, and so this drug, we're basically putting this magnet for drug use in our community. We're less than a block away from this store. So we've had a break-in a couple of years ago where they stole our sound system. We installed 2 mini splits on the same side towards the store. They came in and they cut the copper lines. It probably gained them about $20, but it cost us several $1,000s to replace the equipment that was both the mini splits, repair the copper lines, and then put enclosed barbed wire fences to keep anybody out. We've also had people behind our Connex who are obviously smoking, just kind of hanging out there. That's within like 2 businesses, well, the one building and then us of that store. So we also had a couple last year who decided to roll a log against the back wall of our building and light a fire under it. And then we had a rock thrown into one of our windows, and it cost us several $100s to replace. So this store is going to be a problem in our community, and we just really need to think about what we're doing. You say, the man who is promoting this said, this is in line with Elevate Las Cruces. I don't see how this is elevating Las Cruces to bring yet another of these businesses in here, because there's already one within a mile down off of Main Street. So, and there's probably 15 others in the city. You don't need to have all these stores, and some of them are already going out of business. So I just feel that you should deny this request. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on the left? All right, well, I guess my left. You guys are all probably wondering, he keeps saying left, I'm backwards. Okay, over here on the right. Go ahead and come on up. And if you'll state your name for the record, then I can swear you in.
Karen Rowers, R-A-W-E-R-S.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
Yes.
Go ahead.
You're going to stand? Fine. Marijuana is legal. It's legal in New Mexico. We can't. It is what it is. It'll be here. I'm not against it. You want to smoke up? Smoke up. But what I want to talk about is where is the actual intersection it's at. I live 1 block down from this place, and just since January of this year, I've seen 42 fender benders for people cutting across Townsend Place, not stopping on Hoagland onto Alameda. People cutting across as fast as they can across Alameda into the gas station. Now we have people who will be wanting their pot shop, and they'll be crossing over the street. I saw that they said it has no impact to the safety. That's not true. I'm already watching accidents. I've watched 5 or 6 major accidents with multiple ambulances happen in that intersection. I live there. I'm the one who sees most of them. I'm the one who calls them into the police. So I believe that adding more traffic by having a marijuana shop there can endanger the safety of the neighborhood, will cause more accidents. That is one of the only thoroughfares in and out of that section. If there is a major accident due to someone needing to get their fix, or they've run out of their gummies and they pull in there and they're already high and they cut across the intersection because the light's going to change and it's a major accident, you've closed down Mayfield High getting through. You've closed down people's access to Main Street and Albertsons. You've closed down people trying to go down to Dalrymple using Doña Ana Avenue. Traffic and the problems that can come from the traffic of people trying to get in and out of that shop could be a major issue for that neighborhood. I watch it every day. I watch the high schoolers speed to get in and get out. I want to talk about, I agree with people that there are enough pot shops in this town. Cannabis shops, pot shops, THC businesses. There's enough in this town. You can't throw a stone down Picacho without finding one. You drive down valley and there's 3 or 4 drive-throughs. We have enough. If people can't drive that mile and a half to go get their fix, then maybe they should plan ahead better. Have to plan ahead to get milk. Maybe they should be planning ahead to go get their edibles or their smokables. I also want to talk about the fact that we have increasing homelessness because of the canal back there, because of the parks. I have a wall in front of my house, and I see people smoke on that wall daily. I don't need more people smoking on my wall. That is my homeowner's liability if they were to fall off of my wall into the street. That is my liability if they just randomly fall the other way into my property. We are just asking for the homeowners in that area to assume more liability for other people's actions. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else on the right that would like to speak? All right, I think we're going to close for public participation and go to the counselors, or, yeah, counselors, right? Commissioners. Man, I'm terrible at that. All right. Go ahead, Kaiser.
I've got a question about the 2024 special use permit that was approved at this location. Can you talk more about the relationship with this application? Did it expire? Like, what's the deal with that?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Kaiser, that unfortunately business didn't come into fruition. They're actually looking at doing a complete addition onto that building to the south side of. You can kind of see it on your site plan that's in your packet. They're doing an addition to the south side. Let me just pull it up. How about that, right? They're trying to do an addition here to the south side, and that's where they're going to be doing all their cannabis-related business and just keep the convenience store here. But unfortunately, this is in a very bad floodplain area, so that addition would have just taken forever with flood studies, Kent knows all that fun stuff, FEMA requirements, so on and so forth like that. So unfortunately, that one just fell through, unfortunately. So now this is a new business that's trying to go in there. Since it's a new business is required to submit for a new special use permit.
Okay, and then putting it on the inside of the building, then is the city confident that they can meet all the state requirements around the security protocols for getting in and access to the products?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Kaiser, the state has been working with the city tremendously with actually having agents, if you will, to make sure before anything gets issued by them, they go out there and inspect and make sure what they have in place meets requirements for state statute, as well as we go out there and make sure they're meeting requirements from a fire code standpoint, building code standpoint, and planning as well, sir. So there's about 4 different set of eyes on any type of a new proposal, including cannabis, sir.
Okay, so presumably the applicant's confident they can meet those requirements, otherwise they wouldn't be here. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Kaiser, that is correct. The applicant's representative has actually helped numerous cannabis businesses in the city of Las Cruces open up and make sure that they're following state statute and city requirements, sir.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. A question, I guess, for staff. I know, it's been probably a minute since we've seen one of these applications come through. I honestly don't even remember the last one we've seen, but I know, we get a lot of concern from residents and the neighbors to these businesses about, potential increase in crime and attracting, whatever it may be. I know in the past, the city has not been able to produce any evidence that has been a reality that comes to bear as a result of these businesses. Is the city aware of any incidences where these businesses have produced an increase in crime in the vicinity?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Kaiser, no. The only time we really see any issues is when they go above and beyond what they're allowed to do with their cannabis-related business. They'll open up a lounge that's not permitted. They'll have like a block party that's not permitted or something like that. That's what we see typically. All the other stuff is an enforcement issue, so we keep an eye out for that. If we do see an issue with our code enforcement or police department, we do contact the state and, of course, the state troopers as well, because they're the ones who are enforcing all that, as well as the agents for the state of New Mexico, the Bureau for Cannabis, sir.
Thank you. And then I guess my final comment, just generally on this particular intersection, definitely understand the safety concerns there. You know, that's whether or not this goes in, it's approved tonight or not, those conditions still exist. I mean, this is not far from another part of town, McClure Road, that we have heard from a lot of residents. And I know this commission has expressed our desire for the city to address some of those via other mechanisms, but this, unfortunately, the special use permit doesn't allow us to address those issues. Those issues are going to be there regardless of whether or not this goes through tonight. I will say, you know, it is a gas station. It's a prime location. There's apartment complexes going in nearby. You've got the trail on the lateral there. It's a prime location. I really wish, you know, there was an opportunity to reimagine what this corner could be from an economic development perspective. I think a gas station there is not ideal from just a highest and best use of that particular lot, but unfortunately, that's not before us this evening. So that's just what I had to say about that.
Any other commissioners?
Mr. Chair, if I may. And these are just out of
Costa, go ahead, yeah.
curiosity questions, staff. This intersection can get congested. We all understand that. But did we consider the impact of the factors related to traffic as a concern?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Costa, our traffic section did take a look at this. Since it's not an additional use, it's just ancillary use with what's existing on the property. There's not no issues with the additional, the increase in intensity was not that required any type of special traffic impact analysis or any type of study for traffic in that area. Unfortunately, as Commissioner Kaiser brought up, the roadways are rather antiquated, if you will, in their design and their widths and so on and so forth. Again, these are thoroughfares, but as you can see, they're restricted thoroughfares, unfortunately. So it's just going to take a real big bond that the city, I guess, will have to basically pony up and get those two roadways redone in order for them to be wide enough to be more safe and so forth like that. But again, like Commissioner Kaiser said, we see this, unfortunately, in this part of town a lot, ma'am.
And so this would not impact the SUP whatsoever?
The traffic, like I said, our traffic section did approve this, ma'am. They saw no issues with the proposal.
I have one additional question. Can you update me? Is there any standards or for the distance being close to a church? Because I mentioned there was 2 individuals that spoke that their churches are close to this establishment.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Costa, there is not a distance requirement from religious institutions per our ordinance, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Costa.
Just a quick question for staff. Considering since April 2022, Las Cruces is the 3rd leading revenue driver of the cities for New Mexico at 141 million, just a little north of that. You know, looking at GRT, that would be, you know, assuming around almost, 3.9 million. Do we know how much of that we've received and or what it's used for?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Costa, I unfortunately do not know that. I do know our finance department and our city management was working on those things, but we have no idea what's happening with those monies, sir.
So to Commissioner Kaiser's point, I do see 2 separate issues, one that continues to not go away. I don't know if there's any way that, cannabis businesses, for instance, going in and redeveloping a property or whatever that may be, hopefully adding some security presence with that, because the security presence that the law requires in that aspect, I think it would be good to see the city also follow up with the fact that they're going in and investing on properties to make sure, things around the area, but around the city are safer and, more comfortable for residents around, around here. So that's, I suppose, my comment leading it off of Commissioner Kaiser.
Thank you.
Commissioner Smith.
I wrote down several notes on things. First of all, I want to address your concern about traffic. it's been a long time, but over 20 years ago, I was a Las Cruces police officer, and I used to deal with traffic in that area, especially after Mayfield students got out of school because they didn't really follow traffic laws very well, as far as stop signs and yield signs. So, you know, that was over 20 years ago, and traffic has always been a problem there, and probably until something happens with that road, always will be. And so I share your concern there, and it's always been there. And saying that, I don't think that, you know, the having a cannabis business there is going to have, you know, a more negative impact on traffic, because there's been a gas station, you know, convenience store there for decades selling alcohol, and alcohol is 10 times more available to young people than cannabis is. And, you know, and so it's not easy to purchase cannabis compared to purchasing alcohol, because that's just sitting out on shelves. And so I'm just giving, you know, just some points to you know, people's concerns, because we've had cannabis businesses here. We're going on with 6 years now, and yes, they're businesses. They're no different than open up a restaurant, and they're either going to survive or they're going to, you know, or die based on their ability to provide a service that people will want to purchase, and have a business that people will, you know, will help maintain it. And so with the number of, you know, cannabis businesses in this town, it's tough competition. And so they're going to manage their business in the best way possible, in the strictest way possible, to, you know, to be successful. So, you know, there's this idea that, you know, having a cannabis business here as opposed to a liquor store is going to cause, you know, an increase in drug use. Well, there's already high use of alcohol and very accessible to homeless people, to students. And so, you know, we have to be realistic about paranoia concerning a cannabis business, because there are very difficult restrictions as far as, you know, how the operator, how the business owner provides the service, and how the customer is able to purchase it. A student can walk into a store and buy a plastic bottle of Fireball, you know, easily, but they won't be able to go behind a counter and purchase, you know, cannabis products. So I feel that, you know, that's a concern that we have to operate from a basis of reality as far as how accessible these cannabis products are to kids or students, because it's going to be very, very difficult for that to happen. You know, I want to make one more point on this. Years ago, we had someone come before the commission to get approval to have a cannabis business on El Paseo, which shared a parking lot with a large church there. But that building, which used to be, I think it was an Asian restaurant, Japanese restaurant. Well, right beside that is a Wiener Schnitzel. And at that time, I remember making a point. I would argue that the food or the food product that they sell at that Wiener Schnitzel is a lot more dangerous to a child than trying to purchase cannabis from a cannabis store with the heavy restrictions that they have there. Because any child, any person can walk up there and buy some hot dog with ingredients, chemicals with a list this long that would have more harm, way more harm, than the almost impossible chance of them getting a cannabis product. So I'm sorry, I operate in reality. I like to be a common sense person. I don't like to have, you know, create a narrative that becomes your reality that people freak out about. And so once again, I would say that the danger of having that cannabis there and the negative impact that it would have on that community is not going to be as, you know, bad as people would think. So I know I took a lot of time, but something I just wanted to share. Thank you.
Commissioner McCallison.
Thank you.
McCaslin, sorry.
So I just wanted to talk about this from the commercial real estate standpoint. So in this city, the fire department has told us that the number one concern of loss of life is vacant commercial buildings. I realize this one's not vacant, but the presence of any operating business with increased security and lighting is a huge benefit to any property owner here. So I just hope that you guys understand that the more business awareness that we have, then hopefully the safer our city and our neighborhoods can be.
Any other one? I just have one question, and that's the 300-foot rule. How did that come about? Who set the 300-foot rule, and what was the jurisdiction, or how did you come up with 300 feet when that was approved?
Mr. Chair, basically that was done by the city themselves when cannabis was legalized by the state of New Mexico, where the state of New Mexico said you have to allow this, you could put some type of restrictions and standards on it, but you have to allow it. So the city just what we looked at was what's out there that requires a 300-foot, it would require some type of separation. The number one thing was liquor licenses, of course. Liquor licenses require a minimum 300-foot separation from any school, church, that's where a church religious institution comes into play, and any military institution or installation, my apologies. And that one as well, if it's less than 300 feet, city council basically votes on that as well to waive the required 300 feet. The avenue we have to do it with y'all was with a special use permit if it was less than 300 feet in order if we could allow for that use to move forward, sir. That way it was case specific for that case and doesn't run with the property, if you will. It's just for each particular business that goes into that property that's trying to do that business. So that's a quick history of how we came up with all that.
So if the city is the one saying 300 feet, and in this case, then the city is the one saying it's okay to be within the 300 feet.
Mr. Chair, that is correct. We looked at all life safety welfare issues, sent it out to all reviewing parties, including our fire department, traffic or engineering section as well, to see if they saw any issues with the potential use of the property. Everybody had no issues with the proposal and with the additional use on the property.
And that 300 feet, just, we have to be outside of the single-family residential.
Mr. Chair, the way it reads is a cannabis-related business has to be a minimum of 300 feet from a single-family zone district. If it's less than that, then a special use permit can be requested for.
Okay. I think that's really that's really just my only sticking point. Just, I don't know if it's fair to a mixed, because it's like you're going to run your business, and people want to run a business, and it's good to put a business in all of these commercial areas. We don't want them vacant. You do want the GRT tax. My only issue, though, is that the city itself puts a parameter on it in which we are wanting to go away from it. That's really my only issue with it, is just that we have a 300-foot that we would like to someone set it up for good reason, in my opinion, keeping it away from houses. But that's really all I have. I don't have anything else. So I guess we're now at the point for a vote.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, could you repeat who the motion and second was for this case before I take the vote?
I think Commissioner Kaiser was the motion.
Okay.
And it was a tie for a second between Commissioner Acosta and I believe Commissioner Smith, was it? I heard two voices, sorry, I was writing.
I think you just put Acosta.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a tie between Commissioner Smith and Commissioner Acosta.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'll go ahead and call the roll now.
I did have one more question for staff. And I think Commissioner Kaiser may have kind of voiced a similar question. I know we've had variances in the past for cannabis businesses and that we've approved. Is there any information or data as far as like any problems with those places where we've approved variances that were close to homes or to a school or to a church? Has the city collected any data that says this has been a problem or has not been a problem.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Smith, from the time I've been doing special use permits, we have not had any issues based on how the business is being run, or any issues with the neighborhood and so on and so forth. Like I said before, the issue we've had is how they've been conducting business. For instance, there's one that, funny enough, you say close to a single-family zoning district. There's one off, I forget where it's off, but it was within 300 feet of a single-family zoning district. Basically, that business would say, come on in, buy a T-shirt, and you got yourself a free gram of something. Buy a $100 T-shirt, you get yourself some free cannabis. So that was shut down because the state told us about that was happening, so the business registration was completely closed. That's the only one that I'm aware of that we had potential issues with, sir. But this was years ago when cannabis was still in its infancy and people were trying to see what they can and cannot do. But like I said before, the state of New Mexico's cannabis division has grown exponentially from when it first started, so they are definitely keeping a better eye on everything out there, sir.
Thank you.
And sorry, if I just may elaborate on that, and the operating protocol, if you will, is pretty robust for cannabis. So let's say there is some, issues that are perceived by the neighborhood. It's a code enforcement issue. You can request that to be investigated, inspected, and if they find that they're out of compliance, they have to be held responsible for that. So I just want to make it very clear that there are very robust operating protocols for these facilities.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, I just wanted to add one other thing. The petition or the application before United is a special use permit. It's not a waiver or variance. And this is kind of a zoning distinction, but typically variances have to be based on some specific condition or hardship with a property. This is a special use permit, so certain cannabis, if they meet all these distance requirements, they're allowed a permit to operate without having to come before you. The special use permit is just a process. It's not a prohibition of this use. It's just a condition in which we want additional review to have it go forward, to have an opportunity for the neighborhood or adjacent properties to express that. So it's a procedural type of item that's going forward, and so there's a little bit different criteria that you have to review that. So,
All right, ready for a vote?
Commissioner Acosta,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner McCaslin,
Yes.
Commissioner Murray,
Yes.
and Commissioner Acosta,
Yes.
and Chair Thurston. Oh, excuse me, Commissioner Kaiser,
Yes.
and Chair.
No.
Mr. Chair, the special use permit was approved.
All right, moving on to the next one. Can I have a motion to approve item 7.2?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve.
And can I get a second?
A second.
All right, next, we need a motion and a second to suspend the rules to hear items 7.2 and 7.3 together.
I make a motion to suspend the rules to hear items 7.2 and 7.3 together.
A second.
All right. Now we're going to turn it over to staff for a presentation.
Good evening, everyone. John Castillo for the record. Today we have Soaring Eagle Heights subdivision master plan and preliminary plat. The current conditions of the property, it's located at the northwest corner of Elks Drive and Moreno Road. The lot currently encompasses approximately 23.83 acres. It's an undeveloped vacant parcel of land. The current zoning on the property is NH1S, which is our neighborhood 1 suburban. And it's also located within the suburban neighborhood place type, predominantly surrounded by single-family residential development. We can see here is a zoning map of the property that's highlighted, and some of the zoning around it. Here's an aerial view of the vacant property. So the master plan proposes a single-family and multifamily residential development on a parcel of land. This will be done in 4 phases, 3 of those phases for single-family lots and 1 phase for a multifamily lot. There will be a tract for drainage, which will be maintained and owned by the developer. And then there's 3 other tracts for the development of roadways and to provide a pedestrian access to the adjacent school that is near the property. Here's an image of the master plan. The next proposal for the preliminary plat, once again, is a single-family and multifamily residential development. Phases 1 through 3 are approximately 16.296 acres. This will have 71 residential lots, 6 internal roadways that will provide access to Moreno and Elks, with a pedestrian access to the adjacent school. The improvements and dedication also proposed for Moreno and Elks. Phase 4, which is approximately 7.196 acres, will be used for multifamily residential housing. And here's an image of the preliminary plat. As you can see, phase 1 is kind of at the top corner, then phases 2 and 3 facing more towards Moreno Road, and then phase 4 is a larger tract of land that is at the corner of Moreno and Elks. The analysis showed no life, safety, or welfare issues identified. The proposed master plan complies with the requirements and standards of the city of Las Cruces. The proposed preliminary plat also complies with the requirements of the city of Las Cruces and the subdivision code. The new lots that are being created by the subdivision comply with all requirements of the 2025 development code, and then potential for providing attainable housing in the area, as well as provide a range of housing in the area per Elevate Las Cruces comprehensive plan. At the time of this presentation was created, notice was sent to all surrounding properties within 500 feet. Staff received no emails or phone calls related to the proposal. This did have to go before our Development Review Committee, or DRC, who reviews subdivisions from an infrastructure, utilities, and improvement standpoint. On January 26th, the meeting for the master plan was provided a unanimously recommended approval with conditions. This condition was that we utilize the alternate cross-section for the development of Elks Drive and Moreno Road, which was approved by our DRC. The preliminary plat also had to go. After minor discussion, the DRC recommended approval for the preliminary plat. Staff recommends approval with conditions for the master plan based on relevant city staff. The proposed master plan complies with the requirements and standards of the City of Las Cruces subdivision code. The new lots that are being created by the master plan comply with all requirements of the 2025 development code. And then following the goals and actions outlined in Elevate Las Cruces, the proposed subdivision will allow for the development of alternative housing types, as well as the DRC recommending approval with condition on January 21st. Staff recommends approval for the preliminary plat based on the following findings. Once again, city staff showed that the preliminary plat complies with requirements and standards of the City of Las Cruces subdivision code. All the lots being created by the preliminary plat comply with all requirements of the 2025 land development code. And the following, also as well, following the goals and actions outlined in Elevate Las Cruces, the proposed subdivision will offer housing options that vary in intensity. And as well, the Development Review Committee approved on January 21st as well. So today your options are to vote yes to approve, vote no to deny, vote to amend, or vote to table.
Does the applicant have a presentation they'd like to give?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Is there any public participation? Come on up. And if you will state your name, and then I will swear you in. And we'll give you 3 minutes.
Gina Montoya Ortega.
All right, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
I so do.
Go ahead.
Commissioners, Chair, my name is Gina Eugenia Montoya Ortega, and I am the sister of Teresa Moreno, who owns half of Moreno Road. So from my understanding is the City of Las Cruces owns half of Moreno, and my sister owns the west half of Moreno Road all the way down. She has a mobile home down there and some rentals, which are multifamily little apartments, and I believe an extra mobile home. Her concern is, unfortunately, she couldn't be here. She goes to bed when the chickens do. So her concern is the traffic. The traffic that, as it is, they already have trouble trying to exit with the school there, and now you're creating additional traffic with the additional building of these homes. The next thing that is her concern is right through that area where they would like to do the building, there's an arroyo that runs through there. And this last rain that they had, so that what happens is the water runs right through that where they're going to create the subdivision, runs through across the road, and then the actual, where the water does gather, is just south of Moreno Road, right along the road. So this actually, I believe my sister actually has video showing that it turned into like a river. So now that you are going to concrete and pave all this 23 acres, I know that there is drainage, but that drainage probably is just to account for the property that they are looking to develop. Our concern is, so now the city will maintain, obviously their half of the road. So what happens on the private side? So when that water is diverted onto the road, which Moreno Road basically turned into a river itself, now whose problem is this? Is this going to be my sister's problem? What we actually anticipate in talking with her is this going to be the next Columbia Elementary School flood that is going to leave her in a bind? She doesn't have millions of dollars. She's not a developer. She's just a widowed woman that her husband has had this property in the early 2000s, and that's her concern, and that's my concern as well. I do not want the problem now to become her problem. As it is, whenever that road does kind of wash out, it's her responsibility to maintain it. So if the water now that this housing unit will have its drainage, but what if that water overflows the drainage? My husband and I were small business owners on Valley Drive. We see that big pond right next to there flood over really well. And so if this drainage is not big enough, once again, the concern is this going to be my sister's problem? So we just, for the record, want to know that if you all do approve this, which is great, we know that people need housing, I just don't want it to be her problem. And I want it to be on the record. Thank you.
Thank you for your concerns. Anybody on the left? Okay, anybody on the right that would like to come up? When you get up there, if you'll state your name, I'll swear you in.
My name is Jimmy Garcia.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I just got a few questions. When they do this development, we got notice that they would take part of our road from it. We just want to know how much it would be. And do they just take it? We don't get compensated for it? That's the only question I have and concerns. And now that she brought it up, if they do divert the water, would it run over to any other place like towards Kennedy Road? Would that be a problem? And that's it.
We'll ask those questions. Thank you. Anybody else? Go ahead and come on up. State your name and then I'll swear you in.
My name is Brad Moore.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
I just have the same concerns. I live in one of Miss Moreno's rental properties back there, and I've been back there for about 10 years, and the concerns that I have are equal to what she has already brought at the table here. I would like to see some drawings or some grading and drainage details if at all possible. I am not a engineer in that fact, but I have been in the construction industry my entire life, so I do understand what drawings are, and I was wondering if it is possible to take a look at these draining and grading issues that are definitely a big concern for that area. Thank you.
Thank you for your concerns. All right, seeing that there's no more public comment, let's open it up to the commissioners. Any commissioners? Go ahead, Commissioner Smith.
I just have a question for staff. Clearly, drainage is, seems to be the biggest concern. has that issue been addressed as far as how water will be diverted in case of heavy rains, which we've been getting, more frequently? So is there going to be a new drainage system put in, or is it just going to be a diversion type of situation?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Smith, the master planning process does, as well as the preliminary plat process, does require that we submit a drainage study, which has been done and has been reviewed by our engineering staff, and they've seen no issue with it as far as the diversion goes. The properties are, or the subdivision is required to maintain any new post-development runoff on site, and any historical flows would be released out into how it would normally flow. As far as a lot of the concerns that were brought up regarding how it's going to flow really get discussed more through the construction phase at this time, along with further defining the road sections as per our development code, more so in the subdivision section of our code. Moreno Road being a local roadway, they are required to build out a full cross-section for that area, so they would be building an entire cross-section, which includes asphalt, sidewalk, curb, and gutter. So that'll also help, and that goes to the end of their property, from the beginning of their property to the end of their property.
So it's the developer's responsibility to make sure that any water runoff is contained within their development.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Smith, that is correct.
Just point of clarification on that. It is also the historic, It is the historic flow. So when water does come into a development, and the historic flow that goes out will still come out of that subdivision. So they're not allowed to generate more, but water will still leave their subdivision as it did before that land was there, when it was vacant land. So a lot of the times you'll have people say, hey, well, you were supposed to take all of the ponding. Well, that's not necessarily true. The rules, as I understand it, is you can't increase the discharge. So that's correct, right?
Mr. Chair, that is correct.
Okay. Go ahead, Kaiser, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to follow up on that point. So looking at the proposal here, though, if I'm understanding this correctly, I think it's tract A is there at the south west corner of the property. That would be the drainage retention pond. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Kaiser, that is correct. It is the drainage pond to catch the what wouldn't be caught from the lots themselves, but like Chair Thurston said, it was to catch that post-development that will still allow the historic flow to go through.
Okay, so I guess that's my question is, that's sitting right in the middle of what appears to be the existing arroyo. So how is that going to work? You're going to have this increased flow filling a pond that's already receiving water from upstream, and this is not a tiny little arroyo. I mean, whatever's flowing through here is going to be cooking pretty good. So I'm having a really hard time understanding how this is an acceptable solution.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Kaiser, I can speak to it a little bit, but I will also defer to the applicant's representative who's here. But they are required to provide a FEMA flood study to show the exact runoff that would be produced from that. And if FEMA has deemed it to be insignificant, then the pond will hold. If not, they do have to accommodate the pond to fit.
And has that work been completed?
That work is still in progress.
So how do we know by approving this that it's going to work?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Kaiser, during many multiple staff meetings with the applicant and property owner and the representative and staff, we did also put a note on the master plan that says that if FEMA does not approve the study, we will alter the way the pond works to accommodate.
So in this case, if the drainage doesn't work, Tract A is gonna have to increase, is basically how that would, and then they would end up as a development that you'd probably end up losing lots if drainage is not sufficient. But that is all up to the engineers of the project.
Good evening. My name is Rene Molina. I am the engineer for this project. And if I need to be sworn in,
All right, you ready? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
I sure do.
Go ahead.
So in regards to drainage, there is an arroyo that traverses through the property, and the bulk of the arroyo is actually on phase 4. What we're intending on doing on this development is just like any other development that has come through this board and through city council for multiple years. Our intent is to retain the post-development drainage that we create, and that's what Tract A will be used for. Pre-development flows, the water that comes through that arroyo currently, now, is allowed to be in its current state and discharge at the current location. We can't increase any flow onto that arroyo, and we are not intending to. The intent is to retain the water that is being developed by the home roofs, the impervious areas of the roadways, sidewalks, and so on. Historical flows will remain. We are not allowed to drop more water into that arroyo. It shall remain as is currently. In regards to building in that arroyo, there is no intent to build in that arroyo. We are developing what's referred to as, or known as a CLOMAR, a conditional letter of map revision, that will change the drainage mapping for that area because there is an error that was done previously, and we're going through the process with FEMA to correct that error. That process is ongoing, but will be part of the project as we come to the next phase, which is the construction drawing phase.
Yeah, I appreciate the explanation. I guess I'm just, that's going to be a deep hole, no? Tract A? I mean, because you're going to have to capture all this additional runoff that you're legally obligated to capture in the same location that you're having all these upstream flows converging. It's going to have to be a deep hole.
Commissioners, in all actuality, that tract will not take flow from the arroyo. The flow that will go into Tract A, the pond, the retention pond, will be only from the roadways and the rooftops that will be developed. The arroyo that's from areas that are upstream from this development will flow through. Tract A is not going to be in the path of the arroyo.
Do we have an aerial image in the PowerPoint presentation? Because that's not what I'm seeing. This arroyo flows directly into Tract A.
Do you have contours? No.
Yeah, this one right here.
May I approach?
Yeah, please. It's part of the staff report.
Yes. Mr. Chair, Commissioner Kaiser, that is part of the staff report, but it wasn't placed in the presentation.
Yeah, sorry, you're going to have to get next to a mic too.
Yeah, any discussion has to go through a mic, sorry. Has to be recorded.
I apologize. So I will kind of map the arroyo. So Tract A sits over here on this corner. The arroyo is actually coming into Moreno right here, and it stays on Moreno Road. Tract A is over on this corner. Moreno, where the arroyo comes into Moreno, is in this area right here, and it will be in close proximity to where Phase 3 or Phase 2 roadway ties into Moreno. I lost the mouse, so it's right here. It's in this area, if you could see where I'm pointing. Tract A, the retention pond, is over in this location.
I understand what you're saying, but that's not what I'm seeing. I'm seeing Tract A come all the way to the new Whitetail Eagle Road. So are you saying that you're gonna disconnect that very end, the very tail of the arroyo, and push it entirely onto the road?
The arroyo currently comes into Moreno Road at that location. That stretch, let's call Tract A a flag lot. The whole portion of the flag lot is not going to be the pond location. It works out as to how we wanted to develop the lots, and that's area that's available, but the intent of Tract A is a retention pond for the development, not to curb any flows from the arroyo to come into Tract A, because we would need a very large pond to attenuate that peak, and we can't do that. We're not going to bring that arroyo into Tract A.
Okay, so
Grades will reflect that.
when you build out that Whitetail Eagle Road, what are you going to do with the arroyo? You're gonna put it in a pipe and send it into the road that you're about to build on Moreno?
No, sir, we will not put a pipe. The drainage will continue as it has been currently. It'll be overland flow that would come over the roadway, how it does now, and merge onto Moreno. We don't want to deviate or change that flow path, because at that point, we would be changing historical flow paths, and we can't do that.
Okay, yeah, I understand what you're saying. Thank you for the clarification.
Sure.
My question to staff now, that can't be the answer. No way can that be the answer, that we're just gonna say, we're gonna put this road down in a subdivision and just let the arroyo wash over it? That cannot be the answer.
If I may, design standards exist to safeguard from multiple things. The design standards allow for water to go over roadways and stay on roadways to a certain criteria. That will be held and met. If we were to put pipes in this system and do something like that, you would have to take a pipe network that would be very cumbersome to maintain all the way down past this property, all the way down to the western side, probably around a quarter mile or longer, and you would still have the issue of someone being able to try to maintain a pipe network system that would be silted up. Someone brought up Columbia. Columbia Middle School had two 60-inch pipes that took flows from an arroyo. Multiple times, those pipes were full with sediment and water would overtop. It's best to allow the water to continue as it historically has and maintain the design parameters that are set forth within the design standards.
Yeah, I appreciate the explanation, and I don't disagree with you 100%. I think my concern is that with all that being said, this is the wrong site design for this location. That just essentially damming with this new road at the end of the arroyo and saying we're just gonna let that road, the arroyo overtake that road and send it on down its way, it's only gonna pick up more velocity as it is now flowing over concrete and asphalt with no friction, or way less friction than a sandy arroyo, and gonna cause massive issues downstream. That's my concern. I don't disagree with everything that you just said. I think my concern here with this conversation is that this site plan is the wrong site plan for this location.
Any other comments by the commissioners? Any other questions?
I just want to go back to my original question, so the natural flow will continue, which is historically just what happens when it gets rain there. And with the new development plan, with Track A, capturing any water that's going to flow from the homes, the rooftop, and from just the street, it will not add to the historic flow. It's basically going to be contained or going to be diverted to, the new roadway. It will not be. Is that correct?
Commissioners, yes, that's correct. The intent of this development is to take impervious area flow, rooftops, streets, sidewalks, curb and gutter, manage it through the roadway system, let it drain onto Tract A and be retained, thereby not increasing historical flows, and historical flows will remain as is.
All right, thank you for that clarification.
Any other questions? All right, I got a couple. This is for staff. On the DRC review, what does the alternate cross-section turn out to be?
Mr. Chair, which cross-section are you speaking about?
Elks.
That alternate cross-section, ultimately, they're dedicating about a 10-foot wide tract of land. From there, they're going to take the existing alignment to the south of theirs, as you can see right here. Right at the intersection, they're going to align it to keep it going this way, and then it's going to eventually taper into a 2-lane roadway back as we reach the city limits.
Okay, so it's left turn. All right, so okay. And so on Moreno, that's a local, that one's a local, right?
Mr. Chair, that is correct. It is a local roadway.
So according to development codes, are they going to be paving the entire distance of Moreno to the edge, all the way to the end of Tract A, to the end of their property?
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay, and then the other one, because we get stuck up on that sometimes, is the entrance going into the school. Is there any improvements being put on that, or have those been waived by staff?
There are no improvements to that. That tract of land actually belongs to the school.
Okay. I thought this was, okay, so that's, and then you do have a spot where the pedestrian, kids can walk to school. It looks like you have that in Tract B. Is that right? That's what Tract B is for?
Mr. Chair, that is correct. Tract B is that. It's located between lots 9 and 10.
Okay, the other one, the ponding, it says it's going to be owned by the HOA. Is that, or it's going to be owned by the developer until an HOA is formed?
That is correct.
Okay, on the issue of drainage, is there any requirement for like a desilting? Because when the water comes in, because if it's going to go back onto the Moreno Road, is there going to be like a desilting, or what's your policy on dumping the water back onto the road? Because I know it happens throughout the whole city. I mean, it's a good way sometimes to convey water, but do you have to desilt the water, or is that going to just turn into a mud road?
Mr. Chair, Adam Ochoa for the record again. Essentially, yes, sir, there are design standards in our code that requires whatever post-development, or I'm sorry, historic flows be dumped off from property onto a road. Some type of design needs to be taking care of that issue, sir. That's taken care of in the actual design and construction drawings with our Public Works Department. Public Works Department, actually, the director and deputy director were present for the DRC, and they did approve this subdivision, seeing that the flood, there's no real flood issues or drainage issues with the area, sir.
Okay, I get the historic and like water's going to come through there. It's not a question, right? I was just wondering is it going to now is Moreno just going to be covered in dirt when the first rain comes? That's more of my issue on that. And then my very last one, I don't see any parks in here. Because according to this wonderful new Realize Las Cruces, he needs a 3-acre park.
Mr. Chair, the discussion of parks was brought up during the DRC vaguely, or for just a moment, but as the project started back in 2022, and we have been ongoing with this through other discussions with management and different departments, or not different departments, but our Parks and Recreation Department, they were not required to do a park as we've been ongoing with this project.
So you're telling me that my projects that I've talked to you about, I can now not put parks in those?
Mr. Chair, go ahead, David.
Mr. Chair, this was actually submitted during that interim period, and since it was close to coming to the Planning and Zoning Commission, it was deemed to fall under that transition period, and so it beat the time clock.
I'm going to disagree on that a little bit, because I thought we had our last meeting, we said that there were no more that were going to be coming through, except that were going to be coming through the old. It was all going to be coming through the new Realize Las Cruces. That was at least my recollection. But if I am wrong, then help me understand what other projects are also not following that.
Mr. Chair, this should be the last residential subdivision that comes through in that manner. Everything else now has either been submitted during the transitional period or has now been submitted in the new land development code. As I said before, this project started back in 2022. We did see some stoppage, and then it was reapplied for again in 2024, and continued further discussion about road cross sections as well as the flood zone.
We had the last one we had is the city came in and they were trying to hurry up and get a subdivision approved so that they wouldn't have to pay park fees. And that was my understanding, that was going to be the last of them. And now this one coming in, can you go back to your presentation? Does it show under the Realize code, or is it showing it under the old code in your presentation?
Mr. Chair, it does show under Realize. However, we've discussed with our director as well, this is something that has come in before any of the new code was even thought of, or as it was being developed.
So I'm going to see, I see that more of a, what's the right word? Martial law, where it is, we can make whatever rule we want for the time being. I'm sorry, but I get stuck and slapped with park all the time. And any applicant that comes in here is going to get hit with a fee in lieu, which I still don't understand where the fee in lieu funds are going, and if they're even going to parks. But I do, that's the rest of the stuff. I like that they were able to, the pedestrians are in there. I think, we'll deal with the flooding that's going to happen, because there's no way it's not going to get approved through the city without that being taken care of. But I do think there's a little bit of a parks issue that is being waived on this one. That's a serious disadvantage to other developers in this town that are doing it. That's close to, because you're having to pay a park impact fee, but you're paying two impact fees now. You're paying a regional and a neighborhood park. And the regional is $2,600, and then you have to pay the fee in lieu, when sometimes the park impact fee is also larger depending on the size of the home that you're building. And so that can be somewhere in the neighborhood of close to a $10,000 per lot savings that they don't have to live by. That's my only issue with this. And I'm going to leave it at that.
I have one more question. You stated that they applied in 2022 and there was a stop, and then in 2024 there was a restart. Is that considered a reapplication?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Smith, that is considered a reapplication. So the way that we've processed out our subdivision applications, if we have no activity within a certain period of time, we expire the application and they are notified to resubmit.
But wouldn't that fall in 2024? That would fall under the new regulations, correct?
Mr. Chair, may I interject, please, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Smith?
Go
No,
ahead.
sir, it'd be 2025 when realized went into effect, sir. So even with the 2024, they're still under the old code. Additionally, on top of that, the biggest reason why in 2022 that original application kind of stopped was because of the drainage issues and the studies that needed to happen for the Arroyo and so on and so, and alternate cross sections for Moreno and Elks. So a lot of hurdles were in the way that they needed to work out from an engineering, traffic, drainage, flood control standpoint. That our Parks and Recreation Department, that's why they deemed it fine for this to move forward under the old codes there, just to clarify.
I got one point on that one, though. The other applicants that were put in here, there were multiple of them that said that the park impact, the fee in lieu would be waived if it was approved before the end of the year. That was on multiple applications. This one is not approved before the end of the year.
Mr. Chair, to give a little bit more clarification, whilst all of staff did recommend approval by the middle of December, some staff was out of office and could not meet the required dates, as well as the applicant meeting the required dates to go to DRC by the end of 2025. So we had to approve them.
That happens all the time. We have stuff that doesn't get done on time. I don't know. My opinion is I would put an amendment on this that there is a fee in lieu, that we would pass it with a fee and amending it that the parks get the fee in lieu. Just that's the rules that have been put forward. If not, then it's just doing a favor for one, but then all the other developers that come in, we're not going to do a favor for. I don't find that being fair as a code-based finding. That's my only issue with it. Do I agree with the actual park fee? No, I don't. But that it's in the code, we got to live with it.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, just a point of order. First thing I want to say is the approval of a subdivision is a four-step process. You start with the master plan, which you have this evening, which is kind of a conceptual. This is how the street network you want to connect. This is how, on a higher level, you want the drainage to work. This is the layout, preliminary layout, mix of uses of a property. Then you go to the preliminary plat, where you actually get more detailed, you get more studies on how the drainage is to be handled, how the street network, if there's any need for cross sections. After that point, you go to the actual construction drawings, where you actually have to approve how the entire subdivision will be graded, how drainage will take place, the size of the streets where they'll connect into the network, how utilities are extended, et cetera. And so that's a whole other process outside of the Planning and Zoning Commission. And if any of those standards are not met, the city will not approve those plans, will not issue permits, and if there's something that the applicant cannot do, then he may have to go back and redesign his subdivision. And then after that stage, or concurrently, is the final plat, where the actual legal document's drawn up, where the lots are created, actually filed, and they can be sold, tracks are provided, right-of-ways are dedicated, et cetera. So tonight, you're at that conceptual and also that intermediary step where can these concepts potentially work? It's before the actual final details go forward. So in your role as Planning and Zoning Commission, those are two items that you approve, and the applicant or the property owner can't go forward with the subdivision, preparing the construction drawings or the final plat until he passes this level, or she passes this level of approval. So at this stage, you can place conditions on both the master plan and the preliminary plat. If there's something that, before you have construction drawings, if there's additional drainage reviews that you would like to see take place, you can place that type of condition. I don't think it's out of your purview to also address the park fees that you feel this needs to be under. But to the applicant, I think before they go to the final plat stage, they could ask either one, that condition be removed, and at that, what staff would probably do would bring the final plat to you with that request, or there could be a determination that from a legal standpoint, the city erred by not getting this in a timely manner, and they need to fall under the 2001 zoning code and 1989 subdivision code, or 1992 subdivision code. So just want to provide that as information as you go forward. The other option that you have is that you feel that the intent is for them to fall under the previous land development codes, that they've met all their requirements, and then you could motion to approve that. You know, and your series of options that you have, the other one is you can recommend approval with conditions, or you can feel that the requirements for the master plan and the preliminary plat have not been met, and you can deny these applications. And then it puts it back to the applicant on how they choose to go forward with this proposal.
Kaiser.
So I have a few more questions. This is related to really the pedestrian elements of this subdivision. First, I don't disagree with what's been proposed. I'm just curious to see if we can take this to a more intentional level when it comes to specifically pedestrian and cyclist access, because we're immediately adjacent to the middle school. And then just on the other side of the middle school is an elementary school. So I think this is a perfect opportunity to not just do the afterthought of, oh, we gotta slide this in somewhere, but actually have some intentionality behind it that makes it an inviting space to actually encourage. I think there's a huge marketing potential here with this development to say, if you come live here, whether it's buy a single family or move into the future multifamily complex, that you can skip the drop-off and pickup line. Your children can walk right across the neighborhood to the school. So on that point, the first question I have is, did staff have any conversations with the school district, specifically the Safe Routes to School program, around how to make these connections?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Kaiser, no, staff did not speak with Safe Routes to School.
Is there a reason for that?
Point of correction. Actually, staff was associated with a Safe Routes to School, I guess it was like a get-together, if you will, with the Las Cruces Public Schools, the county, so on and so forth like that, a couple weeks ago, where they were showing the connectivity of the new trails out there in the county. We did show them the routes that are being proposed by Elks with the alternate cross-section, as well as the pedestrian connectivity through the subdivision, which will allow people to walk through the subdivision and keep them off of Elks, as well as the bicycling as well with the bike lanes in Elks. They were excited to see that the city was doing something, or a development was coming in that area that would do some type of improvement to the area right there that's pretty in need of additional development for pedestrian connectivity.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. So on that point, the trail that was recently built, I think it was by the county, or maybe it was a collaboration with the school district, I'm not sure. That trail, that multi-use path, was constructed at 8 feet wide. What's being shown on the alternative cross-section for Elks with this proposal, smaller than that. And I'd like to see a way that we can match so that when you have going from this development, this proposal, into the county, because I believe the county city line is like right at the edge of this subdivision, that there's a seamless transition, that they're of equal quality, they're of equal standard, and there isn't, 6 feet is barely enough room for two cyclists to go past each other. And I would just like to see us be able to match what the county recently did, because my understanding is they're interested in bringing that same 8-foot trail all the way down in that gap that currently would exist between the edge of this property and where it currently is on Elks.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Kaiser, there was no talks of any type of extension of that trail there. What's there is there, so it'd be a gap. between what is the county, what is ours. The only time they potentially put, and I believe the trail is on the east side along the freeway, and this is on the west side that meanders. My apologies, it runs adjacent to the schools, you're correct. So, no, sir, there's no discussions on that, but that was their standards. Our standards just require 6-foot pedestrian walkway, sir.
Okay, so I guess the question is, right in front of a school, we have a 14-foot automobile turn lane, and children presumably using that to access the school get 6 feet. That seems very out of balance to me. We have an opportunity here to really change how we've done things in the past, and I think we can certainly find room within, what is this, a total right-of-way of 50 feet to give children at least 8 feet. So I would like to, and I'm not asking to do this right this moment, but I would like to propose a condition of approval that that sidewalk / multi-use path on the west side of Elks be 8 feet to match the multi-use path that we've seen the county recently build. The other point I want to make is, I guess, 2 points. The pedestrian cut-through, my understanding, reading the staff report, that's proposed to be 10 feet, pure concrete. My understanding is Parks, based on the DRC comments, that Parks had asked for 12, but they got 10. Again, I feel like we can be a little bit more intentional here about making something more inviting of a space. 10 feet of asphalt with rock wall on either side of you is not exactly an inviting place to be. I've had conversations with other people in the community, different points, and have mentioned that these cut-throughs they wouldn't let their children walk through them because they are a little sketchy. And so I think here's an opportunity, again, to have that direct access to the school to basically say, hey, we want you to use this. We want you to use this space. We want you to walk with your kids, or even send your kids alone to walk to middle school or down the street to elementary school. And I think we can just be a little bit more intentional there rather than just throwing the scraps, doing the bare minimum. The other point I want to point out is when you exit the subdivision, there's no sidewalk between that location and the entrance to the school. You have to cut across a massive parking lot. I recognize that that's outside the ownership of this applicant, but I'm just wondering if there's a way that we can come to some sort of resolution here, working with the school district perhaps, coming up with a development agreement or something that at least gets you a sidewalk on the north side of this property, so that not only if you're taking Elks, because you're going to have this phase 4 multifamily development, but you also have all the development to the south, to the east, that would potentially be using that trail. They make that right-hand turn by car. I'd like to see us come to some resolution where we can extend at least a trail sidewalk all the way into wherever the nearest sidewalk is currently in the middle school.
I got one thing on the point of that I just I like to see. What is Elks classification?
Mr. Chair,
Road classification?
Elks is classified as an arterial.
Can you pull up the cross-section of the Realize for us on the screen there? I'm curious to see what the Realize cross-section of that and the trail system is. Because I think to your point is that it is a wider trail system on the current, but I'm not positive.
Yeah, I think actually if you go by the the realize the cross-section would actually be a lot wider, but I think given the context here at the end of Elks, they're asking for an alternative. So I think because they're asking for an alternative, we should be a little bit more innovative here.
So my question then is, if GRC has already approved this cross-section, and if it is the desire of the commissioners to change or to have DRC relook at that path section, what would the best way of doing that be, so that we're not necessarily denying a preliminary plat or a master plat, but that it is asking to go back and possibly add those trail systems to match kind of more in line with what Elevate Las Cruces is wanting? And to be able to, because I think what Kaiser is saying is more in line with what Elevate Las Cruces is having those pathways and those connectivities and those larger, because we're looking right here and this is a 10-foot, and on the other, you got a 10-foot, a 6-foot, and two other, so I just think that might be, if that is the desire of the commission up here, to have them go back. If not, you'll have to teach me on how that happens. If to add an additional layer of approval, we would probably have to vote on that. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, Commission members, that is correct. But I think you need to also include the applicant in this discussion also. One, they may want to go forward with the recommendation that the DRC made, or they may say, yes, we're willing to look at that again and come back at a future meeting. So, but I think that's a discussion staff can't answer for the applicant.
Okay, but I guess it's more of a consensus of the commissioners right now, if that is something that we even were wanting to push towards, and then ask of the applicant. So I guess I'm going to ask the question.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question, open it up to the applicant. I mean, is the applicant receptive to working with the commission to find a alternative to what is already an alternative street section that truly accommodates pedestrians and cyclists, specifically children accessing the school that's literally adjacent to this project?
I appreciate the opportunity to have an open discussion, and I appreciate the concern that you have for the adjacent school. I would say that we've been a long time coming through on this project, and we'd like to move forward to construction drawing development as soon as possible. That being said, Elks Road, the alternative was, this is the alternative that we had with staff, technical staff on Public Works and traffic. It was their recommendation to come to this cross-section to develop a left turn bay so that the buses aren't just hanging up on a through street, and be able to be much more safer on a left turn bay, the school buses that carry all the kids to the school. They're the ones that came up with that width of 14 feet. Are we willing to work with DRC staff, or staff, let's just say Public Works staff and transportation or traffic staff, to maybe massage the cross-section on Elks such that we could incorporate an 8-foot wide trail adjacent to a curb and gutter, but reduce the left turn bay? Yes, I think we would be willing to have that discussion if there was a reduction to that left turn bay. In regards to the adjacent access point to the school and the school's property, I will let you know that I worked for Doña Ana County. I was there for 21 years. I actually am part of that group that developed that trail. And I will tell you, the reason it was 8 feet is because that's all we could fit. that was it. And I'm going to tell you that as you go further south from that trail, you're going to have a difficult time trying to find 8 feet to fit a trail. You're probably not going to find that space, because more of a concern will be a vertical constraint by adding curb and gutter so that you have that separation and give a safer buffer to the kids that would walk. In regards to access to the school, the middle school, I was very active in my role with Doña Ana County and working with Safe Routes to School. And let me tell you that Safe Routes to School is very successful in getting funding to implement Safe Routes to School. The pedestrian access that's being proposed, although the recommendation from Parks was 12, they were receptive of the 10-foot. And it was something that has been done and implemented and works. I'm in a neighborhood that has 10-foot access points like that. I'm very close to a middle school, and let me tell you, that is used every day by kids. My kids don't use it because they went to a different school, and I wasn't going to allow them to walk 8 miles. I drove them. But I guess the point I'm trying to make on the adjacent school and access and maybe a multi-use path is excuse me, Safe Routes to Schools has access to funding that's provided by NMDOT for exactly that. And I know that they are working on another school off of Lopez Road, and this is a matter of something that maybe they will work on. When I was with the county, I worked with the school to actually name the road, because it wasn't named. It was part of a civic project with the school, with the kids. And we had discussions about the possibility of a trail. And they were made well aware that there's funding available for that type of stuff. I firmly believe that the developer is willing to work with Public Works and Transportation to look at that cross-section on Elks and try to fit in an 8-foot sidewalk or trail, but the trade-off will be that left turn bay will be narrower.
And I think that's a trade-off that I personally am willing to live with. I mean, right now, that left turn bay is more than twice the space that we're giving our children to be able to walk and ride their bike to school. I hear you on, you've been through the ringer probably on this project. But that's not an excuse in my mind to say, well, we can't do the things that need to be done to allow our kids the ability to walk safely to school. We're always told that the reason that we have gaps in our sidewalks, the reason that we don't have bike lanes on our roads is because that all has to come when the developer comes with their project. Well, here we are. You're standing before us. We have an opportunity to do what's really needs to be done to get the outcomes that we want. I appreciate your willingness to want to work with staff to find a solution there. I just want to make sure that we have some guarantees. I think an 8-foot to match what the county just built by subtracting 2 feet from the left turn bay, fantastic. But if we don't put that as a condition of approval, my concern is that you're going to walk out this door, you're going to have a conversation and say, oh, well, we had a conversation, and we ended up right back where we are. So thank you for your willingness there. I still want to have some guarantees that we're gonna get there, particularly on Elks. I understand the complexities of the school district issue on the northern boundary. But again, here's an opportunity to find a solution where everyone's coming to the table. By doing a sidewalk that wraps all the way around in combination with the school district, that is a huge marketing opportunity for this development going forward. Because very few schools in this city have what you could potentially build. Most schools in this district or in the city are not walkable or hardly walkable. And here's an opportunity to really flip the script. The final point I'll make on this topic is whether or not any other traffic calming on Elks Road will be part of this, particularly because that stretch, that's, I guess, within a future block of the entrance to the middle school. Is there any other requirements that they're gonna have to put in crosswalks, potentially speed bumps, to make sure that traffic does actually slow down through that corridor?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Kaiser, at this time, that would be discussions that would be done further as far as providing it in the cross-section, as they are only required to build out half of Elks. They're only going to get a portion of it. We won't know what further traffic calming aspects we would need for the other half of Elks until that gets developed.
So what you're saying is because we don't know what's gonna happen on the other side, we can't at least put something on this side?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Kaiser, we can. It would be part of that discussion as far as the alternative cross-section.
Okay.
Commissioner McCaslin.
I love the passion that this group has for future projects in the city. But I do feel like it is our position that if you have checked all the boxes that we currently have in our rules, that our job is to look at that. And if we want to further improve our city, we should go back to our rules and make sure that our rules are stipulating what we need in this city. So I don't feel like it's the developer's position to accommodate things that aren't currently being required.
Okay, any other commissioners, or do we get a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to add a condition of approval that the multi-use path on the west side.
Point of order, I'm sorry, point of order.
Yeah.
Chair, under Realize Las Cruces, the new development code, these alternate cross sections and design of roadways are at DRC. So DRC is who would have to vote on that. That condition, a design condition, cannot be placed by the Planning and Zoning Commission. So it basically would have to be kicked back to DRC to see if that's something they would have to do, if I'm not mistaken, David?
Yeah, no, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, I just wanted to make the same thing. The approval authority for alternative cross-sections is now under the jurisdiction of the Development Review Committee. So I think the level of input you have is that you would approve this preliminary plat with the knowledge that an alternative cross-sections would be allowed as it goes forward, so you're aware of what's taking place. But the technical expertise and the engineering of that is done by the applicant and reviewed by the staff, and then it's actually approved by the Development Review Committee.
So for this case and for future cases, if the commissioners do not agree with what is presented, we would basically either table the item or tell me how that would be. So if we didn't like something, and I'm not saying we don't like this one, I'm just saying if you don't like something, then we would, what's the next process?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, if you felt that a proposal was not meeting the standards, you could vote no. But if the applicant felt that they were meeting all the conditions, they could appeal that to the next level.
But if they wanted to kick it back to DRC, how would they go about that? If there's some design flaw or something like that, that we believe that in the Realize Las Cruces is not being met, and we don't agree with the intent of it that, say, staff would agree with, how does the commission go about not necessarily saying, no, we don't like it, but how do you get certain things revisited? This is more on a knowledge basis for cases moving forward.
I think the way that you would go forward is that you would approach the applicant and say, are you willing to postpone this and go back forward with that? And then it's a decision they make. But I think by the same token, the applicant has an opportunity for a decision. If he feels that he's met all the requirements and that he has made the compromise or made the best design, that you should hear that and take a vote on that. And then it's in your mind of what's been presented, the information that's been provided, do you feel that a standard of the city has not been met? And if that's the case, then you can vote no to deny a proposal.
And then after the vote no, then it can still go to city council and then get approved. That's right?
Upon appeal.
Thank you. All right, with that, can we get a motion? Oh, let me first clarify. We suspended the rules and to hear both items, and now we need to reinstate the rules. Or do we just go for a vote?
Yes, sir, that is correct. Since you just have to be voting on them separately. You already did a motion and a second for approval of 7.2. So you just need to call the roll for that one. And then for 7.3, you need to ask for a motion and a second, and then call for the vote on that one, sir.
Okay, so right now, we need to have a vote. We need to get basically a motion on 7.2 to.
A vote on the approval for 7.2.
The vote on approval, okay.
Mr. Chairman, you already have a motion on that, and so that's for the master plan. And the master plan, as it was presented to staff, was recommendation for approval with approval of an alternative cross-section for the streets of the development. And if you're ready, I can take the roll.
Yes, we're ready.
Commissioner Acosta,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner McCaslin,
Yes.
Commissioner Acosta,
Yes.
Commissioner Murray,
Yes.
Commissioner Kaiser.
Before I give my vote, I'm just going to say I'm not opposed to the concept of the residential development here, but I do feel like we fell short in our aspirations, so I'm voting no.
Chair Thurston.
Rare moment for me, but I'm going to vote no because only the park issue.
Mr. Chair, the master plan was approved. Yes, it was approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission.
All right, next we need a motion. Now can I have a motion to approve item 7.3?
I'd like to move to approve item 7.3.
I second.
All right, now can we get a call for the vote?
Commissioner Acosta,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner McCaslin,
Yes.
Commissioner Murray,
Yes.
Commissioner Acosta,
Yes.
Commissioner Kaiser,
No.
Chair Thurston.
No, only because of the park.
The preliminary plat for the subdivision was approved.
All right, now, next item on the agenda is discussion items. I have two items that I don't know necessarily are for discussion as of tonight.
Check.
Hello, okay, it works again. I guess it was meant that I'm not supposed to say anything else. All right, for discussion items, we don't have anything on here other than there's two items that I wanted to bring up. One would be a downtown update to what's going on with the downtown update. Just kind of wanted to hear some feedback as to the process of that and when we might hear something about that.
Definitely, sir. I believe David Ware is kind of spearheading that.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, I can give you the latest. The consultants have finished their initial draft. There's been one review by the Community Development Department. The next step is to get our comments addressed by the consultant and then do an internal peer review. And then after that is done, the plans are to open it up for public comment. And after the public comment is concluded, we'll put it into the process for adoption of the updated master plan for the downtown.
Thank you.
And is there an opportunity for this body to weigh in?
Mr. Chair, I believe that we will bring that to you as a discussion item, but it's actually the plan for the MRA and the TID. And so they will be the recommending body for that, and then City Council will be the ultimate adopter of it. My recommendation would be that, that you can comment on it as individuals when that public comment period is open. And then, of course, after the discussion, we'll take any comments that the Planning and Zoning Commission has on the plan.
Thank you. My other one that I have on points of discussion, as long as everyone's okay with that so far. The last one was just to realize Las Cruces updates of certain issues. Is there any issues with what we've kind of rolled out there? Are there, the reasoning in that is if there's any issues that staff is currently seeing with either development code or it be construction issues or other things like that that you guys are seeing that may trickle down to us that we're gonna be having to make discussions of anyways, I just would be nice if you can give us an update as to any issues with Realize so that we can be basically understanding what's gonna be coming to us for future preliminary plats, future items.
Sure thing, Mr. Chair. Staff is keeping a log of kind of shortcomings, if you will, a little bit, or things that aren't fitting in well with our current, or with our new development code. So we could definitely kind of provide you an update of what we have on our list, just so you're not blindsided with a book of changes when we come in for another amendment, because staff is still working on kind of a time frame every 6 months and then every year to do some type of amendment to code, sir.
Okay. Now that there was going to be a Realize was supposed to come, I think it already did once, with the couple of changes that that staff already found were messed up a little bit or just overlooked. Is there going to be another one of those?
Mr. Chair, that is correct. Any type of amendment to Realize or to the new development code will have to come before the Planning and Zoning Commission before it goes on to City Council, sir.
Okay. Do you guys have any dates or anything like that yet?
As of now, not, sir, just because, like I said, we have a every 6 month time frame. So we need to see what we have this next few months. If we do have something ready to go, we'll definitely move it forward, sir.
Okay. If you'll just do us a favor, that if a applicant has a bunch of changes on it, if you'll give us an update prior to that one so we know all of the updates so we're not having to go through the whole thing with the applicant. Instead, we could be doing that with you guys.
Sure thing. And just to let you know, we are working on updating, providing the newly updated, amended development code. It is still available on realizelascruces.com on our website. That is the latest and greatest one right there. Then right now, it doesn't really make sense to make paper copies just because we have to replace them every 6 months or a year kind of thing until it gets some weight to it. Then hopefully we'll be able to get actual physical copies for everybody if need be.
Thank you. With that, does anybody have anything else? All right. Do we just vote to adjourn?
Mr. Chair, I vote to adjourn.
Do I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.